everybody.
I just went
I want
onto
to
the
thank you
webpage.
all for coming tonight on an inclement evening and with all the other things happening in the world these days. So I'd like to call to order the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission, Thursday, March 12th, 2020, and it's 5 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you for our attendees this evening. Nobody coughs.
Right, you have to hold it. Hold it for 10
All right,
seconds.
Connor. We need to have a roll call.
Doug Bruce, Sam DeSoller, Susan Dyer,
Here.
Jeff Golden, Deb Hutton,
Here.
Lee Sandweiss, John Saunders,
Here.
Chris Sturbaum, here, Duncan Campbell, Ernesto Castaneda,
Here.
Derek Ritchie, Jenny Southern.
Here.
Terrific. All right. I need a motion for approval of our minutes from February 27th. Thank you, Jeff.
Sam DeSoller,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Abstain.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Abstain?
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 502.
All right.
Pardon me, that's 402.
Let's move on to staff review, COA 20-14.
This was the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. It was a request to install a backyard and garden fence. Staff approved. There was nothing in the guidelines mentioning fencing. However, I made sure that the petitioner was in touch with planning and understood height requirements. So this side here will be no taller than 4 feet. And then the rest of this can be up to 8 feet. I never got clarification on planning. I know there's a new provision in the UDO that allows the fence to be taller if they're growing vegetables. But the petitioner doesn't plan. I think this is going to be 8 feet and 8 feet, and this side 4 feet. Just looking at the choice of materials, it's a hog panel style fence. So they have these, 4-gauge welded wire panels here in between some cedar posts. Staff found that the materials and design was appropriate, didn't obscure the historic house, and approved. So I'll talk about this. This is COA 2015. This was approved by the HPC, this project, last May as part of COA 22, but the petitioner, Chuck Heinzelman, came back to me and wanted to amend that approval. Originally, we had approved the glass block side lights to be replaced in kind. He said that that was no longer possible because they couldn't find the exact sized glass blocks, and he proposed fixed aluminum windows. As you read in my staff report, I didn't find that that was compatible. I've since been in contact with Chuck, and he has found very similar sized glass blocks. So he's going to maintain that rectangular block pattern. They're going to be 3/9, but the style of glass blocks won't be this exact style. It's a slight difference than that. I didn't find that to be much of a problem, as long as he maintained really that rectangular shape and that 3/9. So we're working on a staff approval of this at this stage. I'd be happy to take your input as far as things you'd like me to communicate with them.
I was wondering if there's any chance that he would be able to locate or be able to find some vintage glass block, because it isn't all that many that are broken. I mean, maybe 10 of them.
Some broke on the inside.
Yeah, there's.
I couldn't find any.
And maybe salvage what we already have. It might be difficult. I don't know if he's.
I asked him to do that, and he couldn't. He said he couldn't find it. He's working with this Sieves glass block company.
Oh yeah, you might check if in Indianapolis there's a few places.
Sam.
So this is you keep saying 3x9, and I've seen 3x6, which is 18. Does that mean?
That's what I meant. 3x6.
Okay, great. I want to make sure my math skills are up to par. Do you know if they're 3 inches or 4 inches deep nominally? I'm guessing 3 just from that close-up
I have an
picture.
email with Chuck. I can pull it up real quick.
Because you've got the width and the height. It's basically a 8 by 5, which is an odd size.
4 3/4 by 7 7/8.
And then so you can get,
Because glass blocks come in either like a nominally 3-inch or nominal 4-inch depth.
Yeah.
So that really will change up what you can get.
It looks like these are 3 1/8 inch deep.
Okay, so he's proposing that.
Yes.
Okay, so they're slightly less. They're 4 inches instead of 5 inches wide on those. Okay.
Anybody have any comments? Yeah, sorry.
I had questions, but,
Oh, questions.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
order.
we're out of order. Somebody, maybe we should go in order, I don't know. Did they originally go all the way down to the ground? What's underneath there? That looks like wood.
No, that's
I think it's
limestone.
Is that limestone?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't walk up in the yard to look.
You can because there's a fence.
Yeah. It just looked like there was grain to it, and some limestone does have grain, so. Okay, yeah, I looked around. I had a hard time finding this too. I found them square. The rectangular is harder to find. We do have quite a few salvage places around, like you said, though. I had a question, when it was in the bigger picture, he's not talking about, you have windows in the front, behind where those gray things are now?
Plywood.
Yeah, that's plywood there. What's behind that? Is there blocks maybe behind that? That he could salvage from there?
No.
Okay. Well, that would be nice.
Actually,
Sometimes they're enclosed like that.
I think that's the only location you have that kind of glass spot.
On the building, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Because we went through it, some of us went through it several years ago. I
okay.
mean, I was in it when it was for sale,
Well,
so.
I assume somebody had enclosed those, whatever was there at some point, so I was hoping, if he ripped into that on the inside, he might have found glass block, which sometimes they do. If they crack or a couple get broken and they can't find them, they close them off. But unfortunately, that's not so. Okay, that was my question.
Thank you. Sam?
So commercially available, you can't get that same pattern.
Right.
You can get a 3x8 or a 4x8 in either a clear or the kind of a wavy one.
So you got the stuff, they're kind of diamond colored, right?
That's what he's
Yeah.
using is kind of the diamond, the wavier texture.
Show the patterns.
So I mean, so I think you could do one of two things. One is you salvage enough from one side to restore the other side, and then do the one side in like the totally new block, or you pull it all out and put everything in a similar, similar size. But then you'll have to fur in the sides a little bit because it's going to be an inch. You're going to be furring in, and like you're losing 3 inches, so you'll come in 1.5 inches with like an aluminum pizza channel or something on each side. And I don't know what's better or worse. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
My opinion would be to either you take it all out and replace them all. I think you will notice that difference between, if, like you say, right? If you are able to rescue one full piece, that's my opinion. I don't know about you, Chris.
It'll look cross-eyed or something, it just won't be right.
Jeff?
I agree with what they just said. I don't think having two different ones is going to save any, historic presence of those windows by any means.
Is there any colored glass left? I remember it in an earlier tour.
Yeah, it used to have stained glass.
Likely being a church.
Creamy white with swirls in it.
Where was that at? Here?
Yeah.
That's cute.
No, in the sides, all of the
This
side
along
windows.
here?
used to
Most of
be
those
that.
windows got broken over the years.
Yeah.
You can get more opal if you want, but.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If you do remove both, put new in both windows side by side of the door, can you take the salvaged good pieces existing and put them in some other window or other space or other place to preserve the,
Personally, I
pieces.
think because this was the only place in the whole building that had glass block, I don't think it is very appropriate to stick glass block in places where it would never existed before.
Yeah. And besides, my guess is, it is so hard to do demolition with glass block to save it to begin with, that more than likely they're just gonna wanna pop it all out.
They're good bookcases, they're taller than usual.
Good, Chris. I guess we need a motion to approve.
No,
No.
the petitioner's not here, so we're not making any motions to approve or deny. I was just letting you guys know that I'm talking to him now, and I think I'm gonna move this to a staff level approval, and I just wanted to hear what everyone said. So it sounds like you're perfectly fine allowing that to happen. You know, reading the staff report and reading kind of what he's now gonna be doing.
Yeah.
Rectangular, but I think we prefer a 4x8 as opposed to a 3x8. I mean, the 3x8, you can get a lot more size, or you can get a lot more patterns, so it's a trade-off. If you get the wider one, you're basically stuck with a clear one, or sort of the wavy glass in the
I
back.
think there's a fitting problem too.
I think that's the same one, right?
It's squared.
Crystal or no?
What's the size?
Oh, I see. No, it's a ribbed one. This is close, the 4x8x3, but it's a little tight,
Oh, okay.
lots of lines. But that's not bad. So.
Sorry, I just found
No, yeah, see, it's out there. But I would lean towards trying to get it closer to the size, and, because if you go skinnier, like at a 3-incher,
You have more gap.
you've got it, you don't make up enough, you're still gonna have a 3x9. So that's like the 4, so I would do,
Roughly 4x8.
yeah, and then you'll only lose 3 inches, and you'll have to shim it in 1.5 inches.
This is the plan.
Okay, sweet.
So I'll just compliment staff for sticking up for those glass block.
Thank you, staff.
I had one more comment. Now that I'm looking at it now, I know it's too late. I find the concrete steps were part of probably the design, because it makes it look more like, I think they were going for like Greek temple-y type thing. And the new picture, it takes away, it looks more like a garage. I'm sorry, but it does look more like a garage without and I think there was accessibility issues, but we might have been able to like have something up the center and then maybe left the things off to the sides, because there's also a grade difference.
That's what they did. They wanted to grade up to here, and then we buried the concrete steps.
Yeah, when they grade up to there, they're coming above the foundation then, where it was meant to be. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd mention that it does take away from the original feel of the building. It gets much more garagey, less tabernacle-y. If that's a word, I'll just make it up right now. Anyway, in the future, maybe we could pay more attention to that.
All right, let's move on to COA 20-9. 410 West Smith.
So we saw this 2 weeks ago. The HPC provided some feedback to the petitioner, who was here, and he took that to heart, and he has given us a new design, which we're getting rid of the shed roof, keeping the side gables, changing the fenestration a little bit, keeping what can be saved of the car siding, which you can see here. There are a lot of termites underneath the, what was that later siding?
It's kind of like a press board.
Yeah.
T1.
Well, they were eating that, but not the car siding,
Yeah,
right?
they didn't actually, the car siding is, a lot of it's in pretty bad shape, but a lot of it's salvageable actually, so.
That's surprising.
They ate the cardboard stuff.
So, yeah. And you're going to do a really good treatment, right? While you have all that stripped down, you're going to have a really good treatment going on, because they're really up in there, all the way up to the roof.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So, staff find that the petitioner's current design reflects the HPC's comments made at the previous meeting, and that the changes would allow the structure to maintain its contributing status, and that these are a significant upgrade from the structure's current condition, and staff would recommend approval.
Okay. All right. Questions, Chris?
My eye would like muntins in there, in those windows, if possible.
Ernesto?
No comment, thank you.
No
Deb?
comment. Nope.
Sam?
Are we commenting or questioning?
Question?
What's the slope of the galvanized standing seam roof?
I didn't think that far. I didn't actually.
Make sure it's at least
specify
2 and
that.
12.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna be sad.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a flat roof. I just sketched it on there. And it looks pretty flat there.
That's all I got.
Yeah, you can get ice buildup back up underneath there too. I'm sure you know what you're doing though. Yeah, did this have buttons at all in any of the windows? I don't remember anything, them being divided at all. I think they're all replacement windows or, yeah.
There's one on the side, or there's a pair on the alley side that's
Okay.
just
Yeah,
like
plain.
double hung type of windows.
Right here.
I agree that like I was looking at some windows that had vertical, what is it called, Chris?
Muntins.
Muntins.
Yeah.
And those look kind of nice because the main house on the property on Madison has like the top sash has
The 3
has like
or 4/1.
yeah, has like a 3 pane sort of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't go too far into false historicity, though. I mean, I wouldn't go in to make it look like a 30s cottage or a 40s cottage or even an original match to the house. I wouldn't worry about that too much, if it were me. But do we know what the front door is going to be now?
I haven't chosen a front door.
Haven't chosen it yet? Okay.
That's why it's just plain. I'm not planning to have a door like just a slab like that.
Okay.
I was thinking a 2-panel or a 5-panel door, just something that's simple, traditional door for the front door, with no glass or anything.
No glass at all? Okay.
I think it was a shed that got turned into something to occupy.
Yeah.
So there's no real original.
You're looking at the like where windows might have been cut in before.
They're just
I didn't really
half, yeah.
see anything. There's one section right there in the bottom left picture where you can see like that's not the car siding. There was almost like another door cut in there at some point.
Yeah, I can
because
see
they
that.
patched it in with old door jambs and stuff that still had like the latches on them. And
can see.
and then up, you can see like up in the gable ends, there were some sort of openings up there. I don't know if it was like a hatch or if they had windows at one point up there.
Well, on this, just my thought, on the scale of it, the large 3x3 blanks look a little like picture windows in that scale. And
Yeah, they do look a little bit large.
yeah, so the muttons would break it up, and I'm not sure I'd do the verticals, I'd just do,
A cross grid, is what you're saying?
yeah, like 6 or 8,
Uh-huh.
something that would just help the scale and the detail on the house, but there's no historical reference to it, we can't require it, but I would recommend you looking into it. I think it'd look sharper and
Yeah.
look a little better, because there's so few details.
Yeah.
Otherwise, good for you. Good,
I
that looks
thought,
fine.
yeah, I thought that something like a 6 light window would look good, but I didn't want to try to draw that in and then have people say, oh, well, that's not the way that the shack originally, the original was, so don't like add too much crazy stuff on it.
Okay, are we on the comments?
I was just wondering if they open. Are they single fixed pane or
Oh.
are those gonna open? The windows?
Casement.
They crank out.
It would be, yeah.
You get square crank out? I've never seen a square crank out.
Yeah,
but I
you can
guess-
get 'em any shape you want.
36
Yeah,
by
okay.
36. I mean, I don't necessarily like that square window. I was just trying to find something in between too small, like it's too modern,
Yeah.
being high up and like slender versus.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, that was all my questions, thanks. No questions.
Comments?
I think we're going for sort of compatibility really in the area. And I think we've really sort of got it.
I think so. Okay. We need a motion.
Wait, comments?
Comments around.
I'm sorry. I was looking over here, nobody had.
No, we just go up the line.
Mike, for responding in such a creative way.
Jeff.
I also want to echo that Brian did a nice job of reacting to what we said. Looks great.
Sam?
I think it's a drastic improvement over what's there in the last iteration. But I do think that we're missing some information, but I don't necessarily need to like have it come back. But if you're gonna do this porch roof, you're not showing any beams on the front elevation. You're not showing any columns on the front elevation. I don't want you to run into the same issue you had before where you're gonna whack your head on something. So if you're putting a beam in to carry across and carry that porch roof, which I assume goes the whole width of the house, which is like nothing. So you've got, I don't know, what's the width of the entire structure?
I think that would be 18 feet.
18 feet. So you're gonna probably have 4 posts, because you don't want to post right in front of your door. And then you're gonna have a beam that runs across that. So.
I'll have to look at some span tables.
Yeah, so you're gonna have that, and then your beam, the bottom of your beam is gonna, what's code? You gotta be at least 6'8", but is it 7'6"? I'll look that up. You gotta look that up. But that's gonna raise that front porch and raise that front porch roof. And so by the time you get back to the house, with that 2 and 12 slope, if you're talking about using that galvanized, that's like 3 feet. So it's another 6 inches up once you get to the edge of the house from where you start. And then it's gonna basically go halfway up the slope of your shingle roof. Your porch roof is. Does that make sense?
Draw that out, because I haven't done the math on that porch roof. It was kind of like a last minute sort of add-on as I was doing the drawing.
Yep.
So if I go to draw it out as it needs to be and it's like ridiculous, I'm gonna omit that.
Okay. Do you want to ask for him to come back and do a staff approval on the porch, or do you want to? Because I think it's gonna really change the look of the front of the house.
Do you want to omit the porch, or do you want the porch?
I'll just omit the porch.
Okay.
I don't really
I like the porch, but I want to figure it out before it comes back.
It could be rubber roof.
Could I set
build in the pitch, and so you don't show any of it.
It could be, but what I'm saying is it's not there.
Yeah, good point.
So I really like what's there, but I want you to go through the process with the little porch too.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll have a problem with it, but I just want that want you to go through the process on that one too. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Jenny?
I don't know, you don't have a lot of room there, and I can see that, that there's a beam there, and you're right, the porch is not there. I don't have any trouble with the staff approval. I'm just wondering if there's pitch enough to drop the front down, so there's a step or two down to the porch. I've seen that. If you're not worried about accessibility, like a full step down gives you an extra 8 inches in your roof, right?
Good idea.
So if that, like if you don't run into a well or something there, which might be between the house and the little thing there, then you might be able to step down. I don't know, you'd have to look at the grade and stuff like that. Because I can see why you would want a porch, because there's not a lot of living space inside that thing, and a little bit of outside space would be really nice. Okay.
I just need to calculate that, and I guess I can omit that and then submit a separate.
Yeah, so might consider a step down.
Once I get closer to.
Because there is a step up, I think.
It's not shown on the front elevation.
No, it's not. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Susan,
I don't have anything to add to that.
I have nothing to add. So,
So it sounds like we can, make an approval based on ultimate staff approval, and I could run that by you, Sam, since you're the one that brought this up.
well, we need to make a motion to approve it.
Yeah.
So maybe Sam makes the motion.
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve COA 20-9 at 410 West Smith with the omission of the porch and staff approval of the porch at a later date.
I'd add a friendly amendment on the windows that if he's going to vary them, could even switch to double hung, could add muttons.
Maybe a staff approval on that too.
So staff approval on that.
Because he hasn't decided yet what he's going to do
And
with
he's
windows.
free to do that.
Or doors. So windows, doors, and porch. Staff approval? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yes. And
Second.
thank you, Jeff.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden, Dick Button,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Petition here for 2015. I see that.
We've already done that.
Okay, but somebody else had walked in.
No, he's not going to.
Okay, let's move on to COA 20-13, 642 North Madison Street. You want to do the presentation?
I just run through this. So we've seen this now several times. This is the latest iteration based on feedback given at the February 27th meeting. This is just a quick reminder. This is for adaptive reuse of the kiln building, converted to office and commercial space. Staff finds that the petitioner has made a diligent effort to incorporate the feedback of the HPC during the previous two reviews of the project, and that the current iteration is superior to the previous two versions of the project. And staff would support approval of this as the design respects the industrial character of the kiln building and really the larger Showers campus through the incorporation of the black metal panels, the multi-light windows, and the retention of the lintels and corbelled brick bays around the first story. So taking all that into consideration, staff at this stage would recommend approval. I'd also like to add to that the 30 days is up on March 20th, which is next week. If the HPC does not take an action today, approving or denying, it will be automatically approved next week. The HPC can also ask the petitioner for an extension, but the petitioner has to agree to that.
Good info.
So do we have any additional information from the petitioner?
Yeah, we can speak about it a little bit. We felt like we had a really great session last time. I really thank you all for your comments, and I truly believe that all of us putting our heads together is making this a better building. So thank you for the process. We took the feedback, went back, and really, we really resonated with Duncan's comments about really creating an industrial motif and how the previous storefront looked a bit like a strip mall or a shopping mall. And so we took the grid of what you would typically see in an industrial building of this era, and we applied it to the storefront at the first floor, and we also brought it through to the upper levels. We let go of, it's good to let go of things during the design process, I think, you don't hold on to it too tight. And we had these voids that we created in the upper levels responding to the pilasters and the corbelling and sort of repeating that pattern. And it seemed to be maybe a little too finicky for what an industrial building might be. And we thought it would be more appropriate to take out those recesses, keep the patterning of the pilasters, but just to make those windows similar to the windows adjacent to those. So you can see here how we still maintain the rhythm of the first level, but it doesn't have the recess like it had before. The storefront facing west now is a store. It's still a storefront material, sort of a black storefront material, but on a grid rather than your typical mall storefront type of patterning, with a single door that would be more appropriate for an office use rather than, say, a store. The concern here is that this is a west-facing building, and it's going to be hammered by the sun. And we like the light. We want to keep that, but we're also looking at this option of, rather than having an awning, and you can see here that we've modeled the lintels above the openings now. Good steel lintels. It's actually C-channel with poured concrete behind those steel lintels. Another interesting thing about the building is you see the width of the masonry on the west side. That is the actual width of the wall as it goes back into the building. So it's kind of nice to have that glass coming all the way up to that 26-inch wide masonry wall, and then being able to see that wall and sort of the heaviness of that original wall. So instead of having the awning, we'll expose the lintel, and we're proposing this very light steel C-channel awning over the sidewalk, which would be that historic rail line that was taking material from the kiln into the mill. It could be a beautiful addition where we would be able to apply signage. We could grow wisteria over this, so it would be nicely shaded with vegetation in the summer. It would let the sun in the winter. And so we're showing it with and without, just to have a discussion about whether or not it's obscuring the building too much, and whether or not it would be appropriate energy-wise and design-wise to have something there detached from the building. I've done a similar trellis-type structure where you can create a moment connection with as small as a 3-inch square tube column down to a substantial foundation with no diagonal bracing up to a trellis. So it maintains this really thin and elegant feel. And so that's what's happening there. On the upper level, taking to heart the comment about the railing and the glass maybe being too modern. So it's a little bit hard to make out, but it would just be a panel. It would be very similar to what you see on the lower left along the sidewalk, where it would be a steel sort of wire mesh grid and panels, relatively simple black steel railing. And I think that addresses most of the changes. The buttons here are a little bit hard to make out, but the idea with the windows on the upper level is that we would maintain the black window, whether that be a full fiberglass window, or I think we're proposing more of the black aluminum clad wood window here. It would have the same appearance from the outside. You'd have the stronger vertical mullions on those windows as they're molded together, but we'd have those lighter horizontal lines from the muttons that it's just, you can see them in the upper levels. I think they're going to be a bit more pronounced in actual life as you're looking at them. So you do have the gridding on the windows on the upper levels as well. And then very little change on the east side, the east side.
Questions? Yeah, I really appreciate this work, and just a question about how these windows work. That vertical is exterior and the horizontals are interior?
Yes, they would be internal.
Because on some, it's hard to know what they're going to look like, because maybe on some of these drawings you can't really see them very well, and on some of them they're really pronounced, like that looks great. And if they're going to kind of not be seen, that's...
You know the Root building done by Bailey Weiler on South Walnut?
Can't picture it.
It's a newer building.
It's down by Evil by the Needle.
Yeah, anyhow, it has a similar window treatment with the internal muttons, and they're very pronounced, and the...
They're black, right?
Yeah, I think they're black windows.
I mean, are these going to be black horizontals?
Yeah. I think they're going to read pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's just, this is a bit of a schematic model. It's a little tough to get that photorealistic rendering of what it's actually going to look like, but the intention is there.
Okay, that's my only question.
They won't be as strong as the verticals, but historically, the industrial windows, there's a hierarchy to the grid, right? You know, you have heavier lines around where the windows open and lighter lines where they don't open, so there is a variation in the grid on the historic industrial windows.
Two questions. First is, what is the image? My eyeballs cannot figure out what the image is on the side.
Oh, sorry, you weren't here last time.
Yep.
This is something that Connor and I worked on a little bit, and we thought we would, tell the story of the Showers Brothers complex. And this is a map, 1927 Sanborn map of the Showers complex.
Excellent.
The red dot is the kiln building, and then way up on the top is the sawmill, and in between is where all the logs were stored.
Excellent.
So it's a great way to tell the story
excellent.
of the overall
Great.
campus.
Well, thank you.
And aesthetically, I think it's
Well, it's
sort of
terrific.
an interesting piece.
My only comment would be on the west side, which is the sort of the main office first floor. And I appreciate when you, I'm sorry, I'm conflicted. So I appreciate when you say that the vertical brick separations that we're seeing reflect the full width of the walls inside. And that's very cool, especially when you look in, you can see the actual walls. The other side of me would prefer to see more, right now it looks like a glass wall with some brick around it, brick. And some part of me wants more like the north wall, which is more brick and a little less glass, to more reflect some concept of door openings. And I sort of go back and forth in, since it is a west wall, cutting down on the glass a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, doesn't let as much solar heating in. So just I'm conflicted between the two, whether to have more like that north side or the walls as you have them. So just comment on the look.
Okay.
And
No questions.
It's just to reflect what it has been. Simple.
I got a couple. I guess both on the bay windows and the upper windows, what of those are operable and how do they operate?
The upper windows would be a combination, I think, of fixed and casement. They would not be double hung, so those would swing out. Right now, it is modeled based on a standard size for either a fixed or casement aluminum clad window. So we have some options there. We haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty details of what that might be. I think we should have operable panels in the storefront at the first level as well, but again, we haven't gotten into exactly what would be operable and what would be operable. The operable windows would have a little heavier line than the fixed panels in the storefront scenario at the first floor. And again, that would be representative of a historic industrial window type where you would have heavier lines around the operable panels and lighter lines around the fixed panels.
So the new windows are going to be clad wood, basically, right? Or fiberglass wood.
The upper windows. It's going to be a mixture of storefront at the lower level.
Storefront below. So, like, is that a 2-inch storefront?
Yeah.
Okay. And then upwards, there's going to be. Yeah, I'd be curious to see the details on that. I'll get to that to comment.
They're really close. They're really close in the elevations. It's very, very close to what they actually are. When you mold windows together, it turns out to be about a 3-inch mullion between glazing
Okay.
panels.
That's
and
not
at the
too
lower
bad.
level, you're talking about 2 inches
Yep.
between the fixed panels, and it's going to be more if you put in some awnings or casements within that storefront system.
I hear you. I mean, these are reading to me like steel sash industrial windows at the moment, and they're not going to be that. So I'm just trying to rectify that in my head.
We're trying to allow them to be two separate buildings, where we're maintaining a conversation between the two, but they're not going to be treated exactly the same. So.
Okay. The grid on the railing, Is that some kind of galvanized, powder coated, blah, blah, blah?
It would be a powder coated, I think it's modeled as 3x3 right now. It would
Okay.
have to be no more than a 4x4, obviously.
And I've seen some drawings where, I keep harping on the setback of the second floor. I've seen, there are a couple of drawings in this presentation that it's still set back, but it's like this, where the second floor is not set back from the first
That's it.
floor on the north elevation.
Side, on the 11th Street side,
Okay.
it is.
It is-
We welcome your comment, and we will use it in our defense when we go up against the Planning Commission.
Yeah, all right, well, let us know if I can smack them around for it. How are you dealing with drainage?
It's all going to be roof drain, subterranean, through the garden, between the building and 11th Street to a drain. If we go back just a little, in the upper left corner of the site, right between those two trees,
Yep.
close to 11th Street, there is currently a storm drain that we're going to be tying into.
Sweet, okay.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a wet site, and we're gonna have a little cleaning up to do, and we have to get all that water, take it down, and we've already had the civil engineer look at it. We have a site utility plan, so we have most of that stuff figured out.
No, I was just making sure there's like not gonna be a lot of
Oh,
gutters and downspouts.
when you go over there and look at that building, you know that you have to deal with that water. I mean,
River
it's,
runs through it.
It really does.
yeah. So we have great roofers, and we've got a plan.
And then you've also got ash as the soffit material. Is that gonna be treated, or are you gonna let it
Yeah.
weather, or?
No, it'll be treated. Actually, we've used ash before as a soffit and siding material, treated just with Thompson's water seal. You can also treat it with a citronella oil additive to keep carpenter bees out of it. It's really nice, and as a soffit material, it'll last a very, very long time without needing to be recoated.
Yeah,
So,
I think that'd be super fun.
yeah. And affordable. And ash is a great material to use right now because
Well,
so
some
many
indigenous
ash
American hardwood, right?
and so many ash trees are dying. And so if we can harvest those trees and use them,
There's one behind my house, leave that alone.
take care of it.
Yeah, treat it.
Yeah. I'm done, thank you.
All right.
Okay, well, I think a nice suggestion would be to downlight over that beautiful sculpture-y thing you're putting there. And it
Sure.
would also light your parking area there a little bit. To have a little flush of light might feel a little nice there, a little less dark alley back. And then around the front, I think you guys are really jumping forward every time you come in. It just feels so much better. It feels really nice. I think other people are going to be showing pictures of your building going, now this is the way it's supposed to be done. Kind of like you show pictures of, well, this was what we were looking at. So I think you're doing very well. The one thing you'll have to watch is on those, if the windows are tinted heavily and you have a mullion inside, they're not going to be very noticeable. If it's light tinting you have on there, you're going to be able to see the black through it. So it's really, if you really want that industrial feel, I'm a little worried if you get the dark tinting on the windows, you might as well even, it's not going to feel right, I think.
We haven't discussed tinting, but I
Yeah.
don't see them as darkly tinted windows.
Okay.
I'd certainly see a pretty substantial low-E coating to reduce heat gain,
Yeah.
and internal shades to wait for those, what are they? Black gum trees to grow up,
Yeah.
provide some good
Yeah.
western shade.
I really appreciate removing the canopy off the front of the building. I really kind of never like it when you attach something to a front of a brick building, an old building like that, and you can often run into kind of trouble of where you're going to attach it and how much weight's going to be out in the snow, and where ice piles up against the building, then you get damaged. It can be a lot of different things, so I really appreciate that removal. And then I kind of liked the set forward thing, and I think you'll get a lot of shade from that if that's going to be in your plan. It doesn't bother me at all, that. It still feels industrial to me. You can still see the building, so that doesn't bother me. But altogether, I think you guys are made a really nice building out of this, and I think you're going to love it when you're in it. I think with this change, you're actually going to get more light than you did before, and it's really feels interesting. It's a fascinating building.
Great, thank you.
Some questions? Lucas, are the storefront openings, those are exactly what's there now?
I went out and measured.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's such a well-built building. Like for a kiln, the masons, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for them because it really just measures out. It's a perfect division. Everything's 26 inches. You know, the height. Yes, it's modeled accurately.
Great, thank you. Cisco comments, Chris?
Yeah, I hadn't realized, but I guess it's a question and then a comment, but the underside of the soffit is going to be natural ash, is that, do I understand that? And my comment would be that it always ages and it always fades and it always does it irregularly. And I wonder if you'd consider staining it toward a graying color so that it, you get ahead of it so it doesn't pop as a bright yellow and then it starts showing stains, then it starts discoloring over time. That if it had you wouldn't lose the wood if you had that already aged look to that wood, in my opinion. And it would wear better. And from the ground, it's going to show a lot more than we're seeing in this view. So if it had a light gray that complemented and still showed its woodness, I think that would look like old wood and aged wood. And it might age better as a building that way. I look at wood after 30 years and that we've installed, and I've seen people put fresh, great-looking natural wood up that ends up looking different than they imagine, and it doesn't stay fresh. That's my only comment. I think my other comment, except for the fact that I think you really listened to the comments and really used your incorporated and your design with the comments that came, and I think the outcome, as I've seen in a lot of, contrary to what people think, a lot of people involved makes a better project often. And I think it looks fantastic, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a great building. I'm really excited to see it coming this along. I really like the idea of the trellis on the front, to see something growing, providing shade. It's gonna get blasted with that sun on the west side. I think it's great. I like it.
I like it too, and thank you for being responsive and creative.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm going to echo that. I wanted it to feel industrial, and especially the first floor, that the change to the gridded storefront is a vast improvement. And I also like the trellis. I think it pays tribute to that, to the lumber line. I think it adds to that. So great job, and I look forward to seeing it when it's done.
I think this has been the most fun I've ever had reviewing a building, and I think every time it's come back worlds better. So thanks for listening and making this what it is. That said, if it's at all possible to get like applied buttons on the inside and outside with the shadow bar with the windows that you are purchasing, I'm a big fan of those, as opposed to between the glass or on the inside.
Yeah.
Because they just don't, and the structural ones are too big, so don't do the structural ones, but like if you can get a skinny one on the in and then the out with a little bar in between. I think it looks worlds better than anything on the inside or anything in between the glass, and it's worth the money. Other than that, and Duncan was really hoping that we wouldn't vote on this today, but
You're the
Have to.
voting members.
yep.
Yeah.
So,
And Duncan's voice was heard.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
It was a great
definitely.
voice.
Yep,
Sorry, I'm actually sorry he wasn't able to make it.
me too. Yeah, I think he got the packet, so he's had a chance to see this and has had a chance to respond to staff
Not
in the
have a
meantime.
comment about anything.
Yep, so.
We received in writing.
So, yeah, I like the trellis, how it's detached from the building and how it recalls, the lumber line and as Jeff said, so, I mean, this is, I'm very happy with this.
I'm super excited. I can't wait to see it when it's done. I really am. I think this is going to be great.
Well, I missed the last meeting. I loved it the first time, and I love it even more this time. So I do really like the changes you've made, and I really like the trellis as well. And again, I think the Showers Brothers would be really pleased with what you've done with it.
Thank you. I'm just going to concur with my members, fellow commissioners. I think that this has been a good project for us to review, and it's going to turn out perfect. And I want to thank Lucas for all the work that he's done to accommodate our wishes. Jeff? Not Jeff,
I
but
just
Chris?
had one thought that the question has come up many times, what is that on the back of the building? And I think maybe the way to deal with that would be it gives an opportunity for an interpretive panel, because you start going, what is that? And then you have the interpretive panel, and then you can start visualizing, and it's a little clue that would complement that
We've already got the
piece of
mayor on
art.
the hook for a whole interpretive trail, so.
Good job.
Excellent.
Okay.
Move to approve COA 20-13
Second.
As presented,
as presented.
With the trellis.
with the trellis.
And with the hopeful suggestion, if you can do them with the muntins, the applied muntins.
With the added suggestion around the mountains.
The buttons are going to read, that addresses that question we both have of how will those horizontals read?
So Sam, could you make that motion as if you were writing a COA permit for what is being approved?
Move to approve whatever COA 20-13 as presented with the trellis and internally and externally applied muntins with a shadow bar.
Second.
Can I amend that? Based on.
How about it?
Based on economic feasibility.
Well, but when they did the mill,
Yep.
those windows have
Those-
true buttons.
But those windows are wood. Those are wood inside. Those are Marvin wood in-out custom windows.
Yeah.
Those are like buku dollar windows.
Okay.
So there's already a
Motion
on the table. If
Approve
we're
it or
going to
not?
change it,
Then we need to withdraw.
we need to withdraw it. I think we should just, my opinion, that we should just approve it as it is with the trellis, with
With the fervent hope.
the fervent hope that those windows will be exterior mountains.
Or we could approve it as proposed, and information could be brought back to the commission if there really is a financial issue. Because there isn't when I price them, I don't see a large variation.
My motion
Is on the table, so.
And as that has been seconded,
Which motion got seconded?
the one,
the first one.
the one with the
Your
trellis.
motion.
No,
No,
not
my
mine.
motion.
Not mine.
His was
Just the one with the suggested.
So can I just state for the record that your motion was seconded? Does that need to be withdrawn?
I'll withdraw that motion.
Yep. And
I
Jeff's was
seconded
It wasn't really valid since I already had a motion out there.
That's true.
This was first Jeff's.
Unless you withdraw your
We need-
motion.
we need some
Unless I
practice.
withdraw, which I'm not going to.
So we have a second. Go to
For
Jeff.
Jeff's.
So let's take a roll call.
Okay. Sam DeSoler,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum,
May I comment before I vote?
No.
All right, yes.
Okay.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas.
We will do our best on the I think it'll look better with the externals.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody.
So when's it gonna be done?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna be done, yeah.
Any day.
We're gonna, yeah, we're working, pushing forward as quickly as we can.
Great.
I will issue a plan.
Yeah, now we
Yeah.
got.
Well,
Let us know if we can.
We'll get through that.
do anything. Usually we can't, but let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to demolition delay. And, demo delay 20-9, 1301 West Third.
Zone single-family residential, petitioner wishes to demolish this current structure and rebuild a similar size structure using the same footprint. Staff recommends releasing demo delay 29. Staff finds the structure does not meet any historic or architectural criteria for single property designation.
Okay. Chris? And this time? And the petitioner's here, right? Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, okay. That's what we thought so. Jeff? Sam? Jenny? Susan?
No.
No questions, any comments?
I agree with staff.
Me too. Today, regarding the property located at 1301 West 8th Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Okay.
Sam DeSoler,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Deb Hutton,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Question, this is outside of the near side, isn't it?
This
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's kind of on the corner of Adams and,
Do you know where the trestle, the railroad trestle is that has
Yeah,
stardust
sure.
on it?
Yeah.
It's the house right tucked in behind it.
Oh, I know
If you
that
could
house,
look
yeah.
through the house,
all the time.
you'd see the
Stardust.
song on the side.
You can kind of see it right there.
Yeah.
There's the-
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Good
very
luck with the
much.
project.
Yeah.
That was easy enough. You don't need to see any pictures or anything.
No?
Right on.
Sorry,
You're
you were
good.
last.
Yeah, we should put you
Sorry,
first. Almost last.
Have a nice night.
All right.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to demo delay 20-11, 3501 North Dunn Street. And, you know, the petitioners here, or we?
Yes. Petitioners are here. City of Bloomington Utilities are the petitioners. This is rated notable. This is known as the City of Bloomington Waterworks. It's right across from the Griffey Lake Dam. The city has explored alternatives for adaptive reuse. However, IDEM has emphasized that because of site contamination and the presence of toxic substances, expensive site mitigation measures and ongoing monitoring and testing will need to be implemented. So while it is possible that the structure could be used again, because of current site contamination, it would make that very difficult and very expensive. Staff recommends releasing demo delay 2011. Staff finds that while the structures could be significant to the areas of architecture, community planning, and engineering, the presence of toxic substances and high level of site contamination present a public health and safety risk, and the public should be raised. I want to add to that saying that when I went out here to take photographs, I was confronted by a security guard who told me that I couldn't take a photograph on that side of the road. They're very serious about that. They've had a lot of issues with people breaking in, and so it really is currently a public safety hazard. And you know, the fact that they have to maintain a full-time security guard on that site really speaks to that. So staff would recommend releasing demo delay 2011.
Petitioners with us.
Hi, I'm Vic Felson, I'm the director at City of Bloomington Utilities Department. And I have with me James Hall, who's our Assistant Director for Environmental Programs, who's been leading the investigation efforts. As I think the text here sums it up, I did promise an explanation of why we're back. So about a year and a half ago, I think now, I came was with Ms. Guthrie, and we talked over the circumstances at the building, and at that time we had not filed a demo permit yet. We weren't even close to being ready to, because the demolition and the investigation, the site cleanup was so complicated that at that time we just wanted to sort of prime the pump and let the commission know that it was very unlikely that this building was ever going to be able to be reused. That IDEM had specifically advised against it because even if you could, it would cost millions of dollars to clean it up, and even if you could clean it up, you'd still have to have continuous monitoring for air quality, that there's no guarantee that you wouldn't continue to have problems, and the city would still be responsible even if we sold the property. So it was a really unfortunate situation. I will point out there's the front entranceway of the building has
the picture on the right.
Yeah, the picture on the right has a carved limestone lintel and a nice carved limestone entranceway. Our intention is to separate that out for reuse in a future CBU building. Presumably, I would personally like to see it as the entry door to the boardroom for our board. So I think that would be a nice place where the public would come in, and we could have a marker to commemorate where that doorway came from. So that's the kind of thing we've been thinking about. It's really the other than all that nice copper soffit on there that no one can quite figure out how to get off of there. That's really the most notable thing on the building. Other than that, it's an industrial building. So, but we thought that would be a nice thing to keep, that people do notice. So, so at this point, we're now actually applying for demolition permit, and that's why we're back, because it was more of a courtesy review that we were doing the last time, more or less to make sure that we were going to be able to take this path, that this path was well understood, why we were coming here, why we would come here again today to do this.
Thank you, I appreciate that explanation. Chris, you got any questions?
Yeah, is there a way to have someone demolish the building that would be salvaging brick? I know there are companies that resell old brick, and that brick matches, I'm sure, some building like the old the Eiffel might be a match to the Eiffel that has had repair done with the wrong color brick. There just are some salvageable. Those are salvageable brick that can't be reproduced.
I think part of it might be how much contamination.
Yeah, I'll leave that here, James.
So the outside, we haven't found a lot of contamination on the outside veneer portion of the brick that you're talking about. All portions of the inside has some kind of paint on it, and we found that a lot of that paint on the brick and other parts and piping in the building has really high levels of PCBs in it. Nice. It was something they used as a plasticizer back in the day, so it would kind of go around piping, and they just kind of use it throughout so that's one of the big costs that we have when we're going to dispose of material in this building, is it has to be sent to special landfills and things of that nature. So that's the big problem. We haven't really decided on whether we're going to send this outside part to a construction landfill, or just to the right of this picture there's a 1 million gallon clear well underground right behind the portalets there. Underground there's kind of a swell. You see a 1 million gallon tank that sits underground that we need to fill with something. So we've talked about using that as fill material so we don't have to bring in extra material. But again, we'll have to sample that. A lot of this material, because we can't get in because a lot of the building's underwater on the inside, we're going to pull out and then make piles, sample it, and then determine 1 of 3 locations that it has to be disposed of, depending on the hazard level.
Okay, thank you.
No questions.
No questions.
So, assuming you tear down the building, and what level of toxicity will the site have after you do your cleanup?
It should have none. So a lot of the toxicity comes from the mercury. There was elemental mercury that was released, and it got into the concrete, and it's kind of stuck in the concrete. And that's where the vapors, once it gets over, elemental mercury becomes vapors at 72 degrees. So that's where a lot of the contamination comes from. So all that will be ripped up and taken out.
So it's all sequestered in the materials of the building,
Correct.
and once you take that stuff out, then
Yeah, and there's some soil around the entryways where it got drug out.
Yep.
And all that's going to be dug up, and then we'll sample afterwards. And so the site should be clean. We are going to put environmental restrictions in the covenant and the deed on it, and we're going to plant it back to native grasses and things of that nature.
So if it does get sold, then the city will not be liable for anything because it'll be all in the disclosures.
But no, that's the reason why we can't sell even then. It's called cradle to grave. So we bore the material, so we will ultimately be responsible. So if someone bought it and they went bankrupt, they would still come back to us for the responsibility of the contamination. So.
And what we do intend for the site, and we had to explain what our intentions for the site are, and the use that the utilities department could eventually have there at some point would be to set a package plant for treating water from Lake Griffey for some kind of an emergency situation. So if we had a major failure at the Monroe plant and we needed to augment flow, we could bring in a plant temporarily that would treat and filter water from the lake. We can only make about 6 million gallons per day, but that would certainly supply fire flow for the city. So,
Gotcha.
So we do want to retain it as a possible future emergency water supply. But in the meantime, the property could be used for something else.
Gotcha. So none of the high-level PCB stuff is going to go in the million-gallon tank?
No. All that's all been worked out with IDEM, and and it's not like a lot of the times when you think about the history of Bloomington, that was a PCB oil. This is all on the paint. We've done a lot of cleaning up the paint. We'll take when we're removing it, there's going to be a lot of care to take it out. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, it makes me sad to lose the building. It's a really cool building. But I will say I have actually seen on YouTube kids wandering through there, and not kids, adults wandering through there, filming everything, stirring the mercury with a stick. And so I'm very happy to hear that they've put a guard on there. That's really responsible. Thank you. I'm also glad to hear that you're going to try to salvage some of the limestone and stuff. Some of it's very nice. And it would be nice if we could pull some of that brick. That's an unusual shade for around here, and it will be, like I said, they don't make brick like that anymore. But that's up to you guys, the city. But yeah, it's sad, but could you go ahead and explain what IDEM is? Because you guys are on film, and we keep saying IDEM.
Department of Environmental Management.
Okay. So.
And Philippa reminds me, we've been paying, for a long time we were paying over $20,000 a month for 24-hour security and lighting because we had to keep it lit at night. And then we had Duke reestablish electric power and installed LED lights, which saved a lot, but we're still spending between $10,000 and $15,000 every month for 24-hour security. And believe it or not, even yesterday, there was a car that came up with 2 people who wanted to go in the building.
Yeah. So
After 2 years
needs to be taken care of.
I don't have any questions. So, comments?
Today, regarding the property located at 3501 North Dunn, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Sam DeSoller.
Yes.
Susan Dyer.
Yes.
Jeff Golden.
Yes.
Deb Hutton.
Yes.
John Saunders.
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thanks, Nick, for coming this evening.
The only other thought I was having was those huge limestone steps. Maybe there's a use on site or near the park as bench or.
On the coming out of the buildings,
Yeah.
that's where there's still a lot of contamination where people.
On the
like,
stair-
on all
on
the
the limestone.
entryways, you can kind of see this orange bits, and it's on this north side too, right behind those portalets. There's another entry, and then in the back, all of that area has been contaminated
Right.
with mercury and PCB.
So those steps are contaminated.
Correct, yeah, that
Wow.
whole area will be ripped out and sent to special landfill.
If you haven't seen the new drone footage, there's new drone footage that was flown for around the building. So.
Oh, really?
I put them in that Google Doc, so if you want to share it with them.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to see drones.
I don't see anything under new business. Let's move to old business because we've been putting this off for a few
This is old
meetings.
business. I have several things I want to talk about. Number one, I think the ship has sailed for scholarships for this. I'm going. It looks like nobody is interested in going to the camp session this year or visiting any or attending any of the sessions, which I understand it's in South Bend. It's a little bit of a trip. It's not like you can just go back and forth very easily. So that's fine. I do want to remind everybody that we do have educational requirements every year. You've got to get some kind of training. I am putting on an event in May. I'm actually bringing, I don't know if you guys know who Bob Yap is. He's a pretty renowned preservationist, done a lot of stuff. I got a grant to bring him in, and he's going to do a kind of a seminar here in May. So it's great to get a big name in here to get us some publicity, and that'll be a training opportunity for everybody. He's going to give 3 different talks, one on Friday night and 2 on Saturday morning, May 1st and 2nd. So
Are you gonna send an invite, or is this gonna be?
it's kind of, I just found I got the grant earlier this week. I spoke to Bob on the phone this morning. This is very early on, but
Okay.
I did get confirmation it's going to go forward. So that'll at least be a training opportunity for everybody.
Can I talk to you afterwards about camp and the
Absolutely.
coverage? Because
Yeah.
I've been away for so much the last
Yeah,
month.
well, we can talk. And then restaurant road design guidelines. I think the best thing to do here, I've been working with Sam. If anybody else wants to join us, kind of putting the finishing touches on this, just let me know. If not, you're going to get a document in front of you here in about a month or less. And all you can really do at that stage, hopefully, is approve. Because I haven't gotten any comments from anybody on the guidelines. No one else has really volunteered to help besides Sam.
I'll join the next meeting.
Okay, I'll bring you in then. I'll loop you in when we meet next.
Oh, how well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Has Dave Hartstead been helping
Nope,
with you?
I circled back with Dave and haven't heard
Haven't
anything.
heard anything back from Dave?
So that's that. Okay, you two I'll bring in. Finally, Philippa, you're here. Maybe you could speak a little bit on the city's new procedures moving forward with public meetings and things like that.
Oh, okay, so it's still a work in progress, but the city has been trying to address the coronavirus situation. So, if there are we really are trying to cut down on meetings that are not essential. So, if you have an agenda with deadlines, you guys, unlike some boards and commissions, actually have statutory deadlines. So you're gonna have to have some meetings. But if there's an occasion to cancel one, the suggestion is that you cancel it or, postpone things that you can postpone. Demo delay could be interesting if you're postponing, so we were talking about the options for that. There's a 30-day extension to give you 120 days, but it has to be requested in the first 30 days. So that's a possibility, but we just wanted you all to think about that and be aware that this might be something that Connor would be suggesting on for a given meeting.
Could we switch rooms to, say, the city council room and everyone sits 6 feet apart or farther apart? Well, that's part of it, is the
We've
access.
actually talked about this kind of
What
stuff.
about,
Literally spread out.
what about
Chairs.
Zoom meetings, doing online meetings?
Yeah, as long as you know what, for a public meeting, you have to, we just looked at this, sorry, I've got so much going on, I can't keep it all
Have
straight.
to have it open to the public?
it has to be open to the public in an accessible place. So
Okay.
you have to have a quorum there to be able to have anybody calling in. I mean, you could reduce the number of people, but then you start doing a numbers game. You can also limit public comment or eliminate it. You all don't have as much, like City Council and some other boards have a specific, public comment section, and lots of people show up, and it's often not relevant to the agenda. You could also limit comments related to the agenda. But it's one of those things, you hate to do that. So it may be that we're still evaluating that, but that's another possibility. You're not legally required to have comment.
We don't have many
So,
I know you almost never have people here who want to comment.
yeah, so you would still be able to have a meeting if necessary.
The city's not banning this commission from meeting.
Oh, no. It's just where you have opportunities to not create public forums where people are going to show up and interact. That's the idea.
At this stage, I'm sure it could change depending on how
Yeah,
everything
who knows?
progresses.
Every day is a new day, I'll tell you.
That's right. At this stage, that's,
Yeah.
thank you.
If you look at how 12 of you were all pretty tightly packed in there.
I know.
We were more spread.
And there were coughs.
Chairs, you
Yeah.
couldn't do that. Chairs are not there to sit in except 60 apart. For your protection.
All right.
I wrote these things.
Any commissioner comments?
I have one thought which
Yeah.
might help that, and maybe we just ask the people who, everybody else will stay spread out in the hallway, and then we call people in on a case-by-case basis, just to keep the population down in here. I'm not attached to that, but it's, yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea, Sam.
Have chairs out there they can sit on and spread them apart.
6 foot apart.
6 foot apart, don't catch each
Out the
other.
front door sitting on chairs.
Or give them a sense of the time of their appearance too, so like that one guy had to sit the whole time, or prioritize really small projects to get them out of the way quickly.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea if we can, get the easy ones out of the way early.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Do we still have any public left?
Nope.
They escaped. Darn. Okay, any announcements, which we've already had about the meeting? So, I call adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody coming out today.